The doorbell rang at exactly the one time of night when even your thoughts feel asleep, and my heart stopped because only one person in the world knew that time mattered to me. I hadn't heard that sound in years. Not since I changed my name, burned every bridge, and disappeared so completely that even my past felt like a stranger. I stood frozen in the dark, staring at the door like it might breathe. No one knew me here. No one was supposed to. I didn't move at first. I just listened. The silence after the bell was worse than the sound itself. Heavy, expectant. Like whoever stood outside already knew I was awake. I told myself it was nothing. A mistake, a broken doorbell. But then it rang again. 30:15 a.m. That wasn't random. That was him. My throat went dry, and suddenly I was back there. Back in that house. That life. That version of me who trusted too easily. The version of me he destroyed piece by piece, while smiling like he was saving me. I changed my name because of him. I vanished because of him. And now, somehow, he had found me. I didn't rush. That was the first rule I learned after everything. Never react too fast. Panic was a language he understood, and I refused to speak it anymore. Instead, I walked slowly to the small desk in the corner of my living room. Opened the drawer. Took out the folder I hadn't touched in years. It was still there. Of course it was. Every email. Every transfer. Every lie wrapped in his charming words. Every proof I had carefully collected while pretending I knew nothing. Back then, he thought he was the smart one. He thought I was blind, easy to manipulate. He didn't know that silence doesn't always mean weakness. Sometimes it's just someone waiting for the right moment. The doorbell rang again. 30:16 a.m. I finally stepped toward the door. Not to open it, not yet. Just close enough to feel his presence through it. "I know it's you," I said, my voice steady, almost calm. That surprised even me. There was a pause. Then a soft chuckle from the other side. "You always did catch on faster than I expected," he said. Hearing his voice after all these years didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It didn't break me. It didn't shake me. It just confirmed one thing. I had been right to leave. "You changed your name. New city. New life. Impressive." "You missed a spot," I replied. Another pause. Longer this time. "What do you mean?" I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "You found me because I wanted you to." Silence. Real silence this time. I leaned against the door, letting the truth settle between us like a weight he couldn't lift. "You think you tracked me?" I said quietly. "But I've been tracking you?" That's when I heard it, the shift in his breathing. Subtle but there. The first crack in his confidence. "You took everything from me," I continued. "My money. My reputation. My trust. You made me disappear?" "And yet," he said, trying to recover. "Or I am." "Yes," I whispered. "Exactly where I needed you to be." I stepped back from the door and glanced at the small camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling. The light was blinking steadily, recording everything. "Do you remember the last thing you told me?" I asked. He didn't answer. "You said no one will believe you?" Another pause. "You were right," I said. Back then. I walked back to the desk, picked up my phone and unlocked it. The screen lit up with dozens of notifications. Emails sent. Files uploaded. Messages delivered. "Times change?" I added. "What did you do?" he asked, and this time there was no confidence left. Just a thin layer of fear creeping in. I finished what I started years ago. The truth was simple. When I disappeared, I didn't run, I rebuilt. New identity, yes. New life, yes. But I also spent years quietly gathering everything he never thought to hide. Every transaction he thought was untraceable. Every account under fake names. Every victim who stayed silent. I found them. I listened. And I documented everything. Tonight wasn't random. Wasn't random. It was the exact time he first lied to me. The moment everything began to unravel. And now, it was the moment everything ended. "You should leave?" I said softly. "Or what?" He snapped, but it sounded forced now. "Or you stay long enough to see the police arrive." The words landed heavy. "You're bluffing." I didn't respond right away. I just let the silence answer for me. Then, the sound of sirens. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. Very real. His breathing changed again, faster now. "Unevan, you set me up?" he said. "No," I replied. I waited. Footsteps shuffled outside my door. Hesitation. Panic. "You could have just disappeared," he said, almost desperate now. "You had your new life. Why come back to this?" I walked closer to the door one last time. "Because disappearing wasn't the ending," I said. It was the setup. The sirens grew louder, closer, right on time. I heard him step back, then another step, like he wasn't sure whether to run or stay. "Goodbye," I said. This time, I meant it. Not as an escape, but as a conclusion. A few seconds later there were voices outside. Commands. Movement. The unmistakable sound of everything catching up to him at once. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. I just stood there in the quiet of my home, listening as the past finally unraveled on the other side of a door I no longer feared. For years, I thought vanishing was my revenge. I was wrong. Patience was. And tonight, it paid in full. The knock didn't stop when the sirens got closer, it just got softer, like he was trying to bargain with the door itself. Please, he said, and that word almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. Years ago, I had stood in front of him, asking the same thing. Please explain. Please tell me the truth. Please don't do this to me. And he had looked at me with calm, steady eyes and said, "You're overreacting." Now his voice trembled the same way mine once did. Funny how things circle back. I stayed still, letting him sit in that feeling. Not rushing, not interrupting. Just letting the weight of everything settle on his shoulders the way it once crushed mine. "You don't understand," he continued, voice cracking now. "This isn't what you think." That line. Another classic. I walked closer to the door, not to open it but to be heard clearly. "No," I said quietly. "I understand perfectly. That's why you're still out there and I'm still in here." Silence again. Then a sharp exhale. "You planned all of this," he muttered. Yes, not denial, not hesitation, just truth, 'cause I had in anger, not in revenge fantasies, but in slow, quiet determination. Piece by piece, day by day. While he was busy building his life on lies, I was building something far more dangerous, proof. "You ruined me," he said, but it sounded weak now, like even he didn't believe it. I leaned my forehead lightly against the door. "No," I whispered. "You exposed yourself. I just made sure the world could see it." The siren stopped right outside. Doors slammed, voices got clearer, firm, official. For a brief second, I imagined opening the door, looking at his face one last time, seeing the exact moment it all collapsed in his eyes. But I didn't. Closure isn't always about seeing. Sometimes it's about knowing. "Listen to me," he said quickly, panic rising fast now. "We can fix this. Whatever you sent, whatever you did, we can handle it. You don't have to." A loud, sharp voice cut him off. "Sir, step away from the door." Footsteps. Movement. The sound of control slipping out of his hands. "This is a mistake," he said louder now, trying to regain that old confidence. "I didn't do anything wrong." I closed my eyes. Same script. Different ending. "Sir, put your hands where we can see them." There was a pause. A long one. And in that pause, I could almost hear his mind racing, calculating, searching for an exit that didn't exist anymore. "You set me up," he said again, but softer this time, not accusing, realizing I opened my eyes. "No," I replied gently. "I gave you time. Time to stop, time to change, time to not become exactly who you chose to be." But he never did. And I never forgot. There was a brief struggle outside, not violent, just desperate. Shoes scraping against the ground. Voices tightening, the sound of resistance fading quickly into control. Then, click, metal against metal. Final. The kind of sound that doesn't just end a moment. It ends an illusion. I stepped back from the door slowly, the tension in my chest finally loosening after years of being held too tight. For so long, I thought I needed to confront him. To say everything I never got to say. To ask questions that never had answers. But standing there, listening to it all unfold without even seeing him, I realized something. I didn't need his answers anymore. I had my own. I walked back to the desk and closed the folder, running my fingers over its edge one last time, before placing it back in the drawer. It felt lighter now, not because the past was gone, but because it finally stayed where it belonged. Outside, a soft knock came a few minutes later. Different this time. Professional. "Mom, it's safe to open the door." I looked at it for a moment. That same door that once felt like the only thing between me and everything I feared. Now it was just a door. I opened it. Cool night air rushed in, along with flashing lights painting the street in red and blue. Two officers stood there, calm and composed. "Are you all right?" one of them asked. I nodded. "Yes." And I meant it, not the kind of right you say to end a conversation. The real kind. Behind them, I caught a glimpse of him being led away. His head slightly lowered, shoulders tense, the confidence he once wore like armor completely gone. For a second, just one, I studied his face, not with anger, not with pain, just recognition. This was the man I once trusted, and this was the man I outgrew. He looked up, as if he could feel my eyes on him. Our gazes met for the briefest moment. No words. Nothing left to say. Because everything that needed to be said had already been proven. They guided him into the car, the door shutting with a dull, heavy thud. And just like that, it was over. I stepped back inside and closed the door gently behind me. No fear, no hesitation, just quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, it feels earned. I turned off the light and sat down, letting the stillness settle around me. For years, I thought disappearing was the only way to survive. But tonight showed me something else. I didn't just disappear. I transformed. And when the past finally came knocking at 3:14 a.m., I didn't run. I answered it, on my terms. And this time, I was the one who closed the door. The house stayed quiet after they left, but sleep never came back. I sat there in the dim light, staring at the door like it might ring again, like the past might try one more time to push its way in. My hands were steady, but my mind was wide awake, because something didn't feel finished. Not wrong, just incomplete. I stood up slowly and walked to the window. The street was empty now. No flashing lights, no movement. Just a calm, almost unnatural stillness, like nothing had happened at all. But I knew better. I turned away and headed back to the desk, pulling the drawer open again. The folder was still there, but underneath it something else caught my attention. A smaller envelope. I frowned. I didn't remember putting that there. My chest tightened, not in fear, but in sharp awareness. Every instinct I had built over the years lit up at once. Slowly, I picked it up. No name, no stamp, just plain. I opened it carefully. Inside a single sheet of paper. 3 words. You forgot me. The air in the room shifted cold, heavy. Wrong. I read it again, slower this time. You forgot me? No, I didn't forget anything. I don't forget. That was the whole point. My fingers tightened around the paper as my mind started moving, fast, precise, connecting threads I hadn't even realized were loose. This wasn't him. He didn't do subtle. He didn't do quiet warnings. He was loud, arrogant, careless. This was different. This was someone who had been watching. Someone patient. Someone who knew exactly when to speak. I exhaled slowly, forcing my heartbeat back into rhythm. Think. Years of collecting evidence. Years of digging into accounts. Connections, names that didn't always match faces. He wasn't alone. He never was. I knew that. But I focused on him because he was the center, the face. The one who took everything from me directly. But people like him, they don't build things alone. And now one of them was reminding me. You forgot me. I walked back to the window again, scanning the darkness. Nothing moved. No shadows out of place. No sign of anyone. But that didn't mean they weren't there. Watching, waiting. The same way I had once watched. The same way I had waited. A strange feeling settled in my chest then. Not fear, not exactly. Recognition. Because I understood this game. And I knew what came next. I turned off the last light in the room, letting the house fall completely into darkness. If someone was watching, I wanted them to see nothing. No reaction, no panic, just silence. I sat down again, the note still in my hand, and allowed a small, slow smile to form. Good, I whispered. Because this was the part no one talks about. Revenge doesn't always end with one person. Sometimes, it reveals the rest. For years, I built my life back from nothing. Carefully, quietly, every move calculated, every step deliberate. And tonight proved something important. I wasn't that broken person anymore. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was ready. I reached for my phone and opened an old, locked file. One I hadn't touched yet. Names. Partial connections. Loose ends I never had time to fully pull together. At the top of the list, a single entry I had marked years ago. Unknown partner, no face. No confirmed identity, just careful ones. Too careful. I stared at the note again. You forgot me? No, I said softly. I saved you for last. Outside, somewhere far in the distance, a dog barked. The world kept moving, unaware of the quiet shift happening in a small, dark room. I placed the note neatly beside the folder and leaned back in my chair, letting the calm settle deep into my bones. Whoever they were, they made one mistake. They reached out first. And in doing that, they told me something without realizing it. They were nervous, curious, maybe even afraid. Because if they truly believed I had forgotten them, they would have stayed silent. I closed my eyes for a moment, not to rest, but to focus. To remember. Every detail, every gap, every moment that didn't fully make sense back then. Because now it all mattered again. This wasn't over. Not yet. But this time it wasn't about escaping. It wasn't about surviving. It was about finishing what I started. Properly. Completely. My eyes opened, sharp and clear. The door didn't scare me anymore. The night didn't scare me anymore. And whoever was out there, they shouldn't have rung that bell. Because at 30:14 a.m., they didn't just remind me of the past. They woke up the part of me that knows how to end it. And this time, I won't disappear. I didn't sleep at all. I waited. Because people who send messages like that don't just disappear. They watch for a reaction. They wait to see if you panic, if you run, if you make a mistake. So I gave them nothing. No lights, no movement, no calls, just silence. By morning the house looked exactly the same, but I wasn't. I moved differently. Slower. Sharper. Every sound mattered again. Every shadow had meaning again. I made coffee like it was any normal day, but my mind was already 10 steps ahead. If they knew where I lived, they either followed him, or they found me before he did. And if it was the second one, then last night wasn't a warning. It was a test. I sat down at the desk and opened my laptop, pulling up the old files I had archived years ago. Faces, names, patterns, financial trails, it all came flooding back like it never left. He had been the loud one. But there were always quieter ones behind him. The ones who didn't make mistakes. The ones who let others take the fall. The smart ones. I started cross-checking timelines. His movements. My disappearance. Small anomalies I ignored before because they didn't lead anywhere. Now they did. Because now I knew someone was still out there. Watching. At 9:42 a.m., my doorbell rang again. Not 30:14. Daylight controlled. I didn't rush this time either. I walked to the door and checked the camera feed first. A delivery driver. Normal. Too normal. I opened the door halfway. Package 4. He looked down at the label, then back at me, slightly confused. This name. The name he said wasn't mine. Not the one I use now. Not the one I left behind. Something older. Something buried. I didn't react. Wrong address, I said calmly. He frowned. It was confirmed this morning. Of course it was. I took the package anyway. Leave it, I said. I'll sort it out. He shrugged and walked away, already forgetting me. But I didn't forget him. Because this wasn't about the driver. This was about the message. I closed the door, locked it, and placed the package on the table. Plain box. No branding, no return address. Clean, careful. Just like the note. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I circled it once, thinking. They wanted me to open it, which meant whatever was inside wasn't meant to hurt me physically. It was meant to do something else. Send a signal. I finally cut it open. Inside a phone. Old model, cheap, untraceable. And already ringing. I stared at it for a second before answering. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. Not loud, not aggressive, calm. Controlled. I was wondering how long it would take you. I didn't speak. You always were thorough. The voice continued. That's what made you useful. Useful. Not weak, not knave. Useful. Interesting, I'm not him. The voice added. You already figured that out? Yes, I said quietly. I did. A soft chuckle. Good. Then we can skip the obvious parts. I leaned against the table steady. Why now? I asked. Because you're finally ready. That answer sat wrong. Not threatening, not mocking. Just certain. You built something impressive, they continued. New identity. New life. And then last night, a pause. You pulled the trigger. I finished something. I corrected. No, they said. You started something. Silence stretched between us. I didn't fill it. Do you know why he failed? The voice asked. I didn't answer. Because he underestimated you. Another pause. I won't. That was the first honest thing they said. What do you want? I asked. Clarity. On what? On whether you're still running, or if you've decided to stay and play. Play. There it was. Not revenge. Not justice. A game. I looked down at the phone in my hand, then at the open box, then at the quiet room around me. Years ago, I would have hung up, changed everything again, disappeared deeper. But not now. Careful, I said softly. You might not like how I play. A pause. Then, for the first time, a hint of something in their voice. Not fear. But interest. That's exactly what I'm counting on. The line went dead. I stood there for a long moment, holding the silent phone. Then I placed it back in the box and closed it gently. No panic. No rush. Just clarity. They weren't chasing me. They were inviting me. And that meant one thing. They believed they were in control. I walked back to the desk and reopened the file marked unknown partner, except now. They weren't unknown anymore. Not completely, they made contact. They showed interest. They stepped into the light, even if just a little, and that was enough. I started typing. New notes, new connections, new patterns forming already. Because this time I wasn't reacting. I was building again, slowly, carefully. the same way I always do. Outside, the world kept moving like nothing had changed. But inside this room, everything had. I wasn't the one being hunted anymore. I wasn't the one running anymore. And whoever thought they could turn this into a game, they just made the same mistake he did. They assumed I was still the person they once knew. I'm not. And this time, I'm not the one disappearing. I'm the one waiting for the next move. And when it comes, I'll be ready to end it. For good.